Former President Rodrigo Duterte believes he has no case to answer at the International Criminal Court and is confident that he has a strong legal argument. Vice President Sara Duterte told reporters on Sunday, March 23, that her father, former President Duterte, is now in better health after appearing fatigued and dazed at his first hearing at the ICC last March 14.
He's very confident about the legal arguments. He's very confident about that what they did was wrong, and there is no case to begin with.
The 79-year-old former president faces a charge of crimes against humanity tied to his war on drugs, in which thousands were killed. He is currently in a detention center in The Hague awaiting a confirmation of charges hearing on September 23, where he will have the opportunity to contest the accusations against him. The vice president also said the former president feels better now.
He feels better now, and thankfully the doctors and the nurses are taking good care of him. Yes, we saw him jet-lagged and fatigued and very sick during the first day.
The vice president had earlier addressed a crowd of several thousand in The Hague. Supporters of the former president shouted, "Bring him home," with pro-Duterte demonstrators believing that Rodrigo Duterte was kidnapped to face the ICC. The former president's lawyer, Salvador Medialdea, told the court during the first hearing at the ICC that his client had been abducted from his country. But President Bongbong Marcos has brushed off claims that Duterte's arrest was a political persecution. The International Criminal Court pre-trial chamber has ordered the prosecution and the defense teams of former President Rodrigo Duterte to disclose evidence by April, or months prior to his scheduled confirmation of charges hearing in September. Based on an order dated March 21, the pre-trial chamber of the court directed the prosecution to submit by April 4 the overall number of written pieces of evidence it intends to present at the confirmation hearing. This includes the number of pages it amounts to and the original language of the evidence, as well as the language in which it will be made available. The chamber also tasked the prosecution to present the duration and original language of such pieces of evidence and transcripts or translations. It also tasked the prosecution to note if they will rely on non-written pieces of documentary evidence such as photographs, videos, or audio recordings. The chamber also wants to know how many and which pieces of evidence can be immediately disclosed without redactions and how many persons, if any, the prosecution intends to call witnesses to testify orally. The chamber then gave Duterte's camp until April 11 to provide observations on the information to be submitted by the prosecution. Duterte was arrested at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport on March 11 and was flown on the same day to The Hague, where he is currently being held. He is facing charges of crimes against humanity allegedly committed during his administration's drug war. He initially faced the pre-trial chamber of the ICC court on March 14, while his confirmation of charges hearing is scheduled on September 23, 2025. Pope Francis returned to the Vatican on Sunday, March 23, after being discharged from the hospital where he spent more than 5 weeks being treated for breathing difficulties. The Pope, before leaving the hospital, took time to thank well-wishers for their support. Looking tired and worn, the Pontiff sat in a wheelchair on one of the hospital balconies to say goodbye, waving softly to hundreds of people who had gathered below to wish the Pope a full recovery.
Grazie a tutti.
Francis, who had bags under his eyes, was on the balcony for 2 minutes before being discharged from the hospital immediately afterwards. The Pope left the hospital by wearing a cannula, a plastic tube tucked into his nostrils which delivers oxygen. The Pope was driven past the Vatican and onto Santa Maria Mayor, the Rome church where he stops to pray before and after trips. He was then seen arriving back at the Vatican. The Pope was admitted to Rome's Gemelli Hospital on February 14 with breathing difficulties and a respiratory illness which developed into pneumonia. This was the Pope's fourth and longest hospital stay since his 2013 election. Francis, who had part of one lung removed as a young man and lost weight in the hospital, still faces a long recovery of at least 2 months.